So, when you don't know how to do something, how to fix something, or how something works, what do? Ask a teacher? Ask your parents? Ask your friends? Ask someone you really know and trust? No! You go to the internet and ask some randos. But I'm not talking about creeps here, I hope. No, I mean the people of the internet! You know, those people who make how-to videos. Because chances are, if you're trying to figure out something, someone on the internet has already figured it out for you. Things like, how do I unsend a text? No. How do I do a winged eyeliner? How do I get rid of the zit by Friday night? How do I get out of gym class? How do I screen cap Snapchat without getting caught? They'll never know. But then there are things in life that don't have an easy fix, that don't have a simple solution, that don't have a how-to video. Things like what to do when you have problems with family, or when it seems like you have no control in your life, or what to do when someone has done something to you. I mean, clearly, they gotta go. The truth is, there's a lot of life that doesn't have a solution you can just find online. So how do you know what to do when you don't know what to do?
Hello, ValleyPoint students, and welcome. Thanks for hanging out with us on YouTube. Well, many of you know me, and I know most of you, but for those who don't, I'm Ben Jones, and I'm the associate pastor at ValleyPoint Church. And I'm excited to talk with you today. If you haven't already, please make sure to say hello to your friends and to your connection group leader in the live chat. In fact, I want you to think about this question and reply. Have you ever encountered a situation where you knew that choosing the right thing was going to cost you something that you didn't want to give up? So let us know in the chat below. You can briefly share a scenario, or if it's a little personal, you can just simply reply, yes, I can relate. Well, then later you can talk about that more in your connection group. Well, something you may not know about me is that I was a student pastor here at ValleyPoint years ago. I served in that role for about 6 years. I loved it. I loved being around students, and I think that all of you are the most exciting part about the church. So thank you for staying engaged with ValleyPoint, even through these weird times of not meeting together. When I was a student pastor, one of my students shared with me something that was really kind of surprising about one of my favorite students. Although I'm really not supposed to have a favorite student, right? Well, your parents have a favorite kid too. They just aren't going to tell you. Well, it turned out that this particular student had taken an opioid pill. Someone was passing them around, and I confronted him about this, and he said, yes, it's true. That he didn't want to do it, but everyone else was, so he tried it. He said it was only once, and it scared him and that he was never going to do it again. Well, he then, of course, what's his next concern? As all students would do, he begged me not to tell his parents. Why do you guys do that to us? Don't do that to us. You've already put us in an uncomfortable position. Now you make it worse by making us feel bad about doing the right thing and telling your parents. So here I was in this dilemma. I knew he was a good kid. I believed that he wouldn't do it again. His parents would be really concerned by this. They may or may not ground him, or worse, I didn't know. I wanted the student to keep liking me. I didn't want to be known as this old guy who was just telling parents about everything that was happening. But on the other hand, pills and all drugs really are potentially dangerous, and they can be highly addictive. This stuff is bad for adolescent brains that are developing. If he got addicted and I knew that he was trying this, then I'd have to live with the guilt of not saying anything. So I was really wrestling with what to do here. Was it really that big of a deal? Well, yes. And later on, we're going to discuss more about why, even when things seem small at the time, these little decisions that we make can have great effects on our life. Greater effects than maybe we even realize. So let's jump in. Sometimes knowing the right thing to do, it isn't simple in the moment. Today we're going to look at the dilemma of what to do when we don't know what to do. what to do when we're not sure what's right and what's wrong. So here is the tension in all of this. So sometimes the right thing is just not obvious. And I would say that most of the time, we probably know the right and the wrong thing to do, but it isn't always the case. Or how about this? We know the right thing, but we know the right thing is going to cost us something. Maybe something we don't want to give up. It might cost us our popularity, a friendship, our time. Because doing the right things, it doesn't always create immediate and fun outcomes for us. It can be messy. And I wish I could tell you right now that it becomes easier as you get older, but it really doesn't. I still care about my popularity at times. I still care about what others think of me. I still want to have what others have. I still want to do some of the things that other people are doing that I know isn't right. Sometimes I just clearly can't see what is right and wrong in different scenarios. It's not always clear. But here is a life principle that I've found to be true. If you choose to do the right things consistently over a long period of time, you'll benefit. Let me say that statement one more time for you. If you choose to do the right things consistently over a long period of time, you will benefit. You will. The Lord will bless your faithfulness. So with that in mind, there's no better example of this principle than Joseph. So let's pick up in our story. What we're going to look at today can be a game changer for all of us. It'll help us know what to do when we're not sure what to do. We left off last week with Joseph being sold into slavery. His punk brothers. I was the youngest of 3 brothers, and older brothers, they're punks. So, not that I'm bitter or anything, but here's where we pick up this week with what happened afterward. So Joseph was taken and he was made to work in the house of an officer of the Pharaoh. Now, the Pharaoh was like a king, an emperor, a president, all rolled into one. Whatever Pharaoh said, that's what happened. So the author was quick to point out that God was with Joseph, and he had favor with the officials. One of the officials was named Potiphar. So Joseph was made to work in the house of Potiphar. Things aren't so bad for Joseph because Potiphar trusts him. And things aren't bad for Potiphar because with Joseph, who was in charge, he was thriving because the Lord's blessing was on him. So here's what we see in verse number 6 in Genesis here. It says, so Potiphar let everything he had in Joseph's care. With Joseph in charge, he did not concern himself with anything except what food to eat. Life was pretty good for Potiphar. Now, Joseph was well built and handsome. I can relate. It's hard to be beautiful sometimes. And after a while, his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, come to bed with me. Oh boy. Now, this is where things get complicated. Because Joseph, he was a slave. He was obligated to obey not only Potiphar, but his wife. If he refused her commands, there was nothing holding her back from punishing him. It could cost him his status in their household, which was a much better household than many others, or even cost him his life. But if he did what she asked, that would create a whole other set of problems. Basically, out of respect for Potiphar and out of a even greater respect for God, Joseph simply decided to do the next right thing. Here's what the verses go on to say. But he refused. Here's what he said. With me in charge, he told her, my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns, he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? So he brings a spiritual perspective to this. It doesn't just say he's not doing this because it would affect Potiphar. He's saying this is a spiritual matter. How could I sin against God? And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, she pursued him. So this wasn't easy for him. He refused to go to bed with her or even be alone with her. So it wasn't exactly like his life was perfect as a result of making the right choice. In fact, things got really bad. It got worse. Potiphar's wife falsely accused Joseph of sexually assaulting her. Potiphar believed his wife over Joseph and had Joseph thrown into prison. What? Ben, didn't you say that if you consistently do the right things over a long period of time, you're going to benefit? Yes, I did. But I also said doing the right thing doesn't always result in immediately good outcomes. See, this is the hard thing about all of this. But Joseph didn't make his decision based on what it might mean for him immediately. He did what was right regardless of the immediate outcome. It's difficult to make decisions in the moment based on a futuristic perspective of what might happen down the road, especially for adolescents. And it's not your fault. It's your brain's fault. And I don't say that to make fun or to knock you. It's important to know that your brain is still developing skills of decision making, especially making decisions based on what it might mean for years down the road. That's still developing. This is why it is wise for you to accept the advice of your parents, connection group leaders, and other adults in your life. They understand things about decision making that you're still developing inside of you. It doesn't mean anything other than you're like every other teenager. You're still developing these skills. Here's a word for you to know and embrace. It's the word integrity. Integrity means doing what's right regardless of the outcome. It's choosing what's right no matter what. We don't always know how choosing to do the next right thing will play out. But having integrity in our decision making leaves room for fewer regrets long term. In other words, if you choose to do the right things consistently over a long period of time, you will benefit. And if you're not sure, seek guidance. And not just from other teenagers. Because remember, their brains are just like your brains. Ask a trusted adult in your life. Here's the challenge for you today. 1, think of one situation where you feel stuck at a crossroads. And based on what you've learned here today, figure out what is the next right thing for you. Maybe you're dating somebody, but you're texting someone else a lot. And you're like, well, it's not cheating on anyone. You're just texting at 2 a.m. That's not wrong, right? Or is it? Maybe you have started a physical relationship with someone you are dating and you feel as though it's just not appropriate and the two of you should not be going further physically and sexually. So what's the next right thing for you to do? Or if your friend is talking smack or saying things about somebody else on social media that are hurtful, is it wrong for you to tell them to stop? It might be awkward, but what's the next right thing for you? Or if you have a friend who's doing something that really bothers you or you think is dangerous for them and you don't know if you should talk to them about it or not, you're wondering, if I confront this person, am I just going to look like a jerk? Is this my issue or is it theirs? Should I get over it? Maybe you've been disrespectful to a parent, and it seems to be more their fault than yours, but do you actually ever have the right to disrespect your parent? What's the next right thing for you to do? Then for accountability purposes, Tell somebody what the next right thing for you is going to be. And invite them to pray for you. And then ask you later, have you done this? Did you do what you say you were going to do? Accountability is strong in our lives. And remember, this stuff isn't easy. But as you continue to learn about the story of Joseph, here's what you're going to learn. Decisions matter. Making good decisions matter. And if you choose to do the right things consistently over a long period of time, you will benefit. The Lord will bless your faithfulness. Would you guys pray with me? God, we just want to thank you for our time together here, sitting before our computers on YouTube. Thank you for the ability to meet and gather. We want to also thank you for the examples that you place in Scripture for us to look to. Men of integrity like Joseph, young men of integrity who chose to do the right things no matter what the immediate consequences were. Help us to take a futuristic look at our decision making and think, what am I doing now? And how is it going to affect me 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? And make good decisions. And try to find what's the next right thing for me to do in any given situation. And if we're not sure, help us to look to your word. Help us to seek godly advice and help every student listening to know that you are the source of truth and that you can be trusted and that your word can be trusted. Thank you for our time together. Amen. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us on YouTube. Right now, we're all heading over to Zoom. We're going to play some games and get into our connection group. So just click on the Zoom link in the chat and we'll see you there. Take care, and we'll see you next week as we continue our series, What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do.